Check this shit out. Hello and welcome back to another episode of TACHES Teaches. I'm Tash, and in today's video I want to show you some rather cool ways to get generative in Bitwig without having to get too complex. And by that I mean we're not going to need to go into the grid or do any fancy modular patching. We're just going to use some of the rather basic features in the clip launcher to create some evolving bass lines and melodies and maybe even a few chords. But before we get started, I do just want to say something, and that is that I apologize for my absence over the past year, maybe even 2 years at this point. So many of you guys joined this journey because of the videos I was making where I would, with no real plan, open up Bitwig and explore some concepts that I thought could be fun for you guys to use in your productions. And I think I let complexity get too much of me in the sense that I started to think that I needed to do these big fancy long edited production videos that after a while just started to cripple my sense of creativity around these videos. I started to make it just feel too difficult. But I really do want to make a marked effort to get back to what this channel was originally about, which was just fun, creative explorations of this fantastic software. So without further ado, let's jump right in and I'm going to show you exactly what I'm talking about. Now, I've gone ahead and created a very basic idea here with some drums and a single D minor chord on some electric keys. Let's take a quick listen to what we've got so far. Very simple. I've also created a very basic bass patch here that if we take a quick listen to what it sounds like, it's just a saw wave with a little bit of portamento. And instead of writing a bass line, which I think a lot of the time we can get stuck in trying to create music because maybe we're not feeling inspired or maybe we feel that we always reach for the same patterns and stuff. So one of the reasons why I want to show you this technique is it's a really great way of being able to take, in many ways, the ego out of the music production process and instead create the framework for us to be surprised. And then by all means, go in and pick those bits that work based off of our taste, based off of our ego, but to really just get out of our own way to be able to present ourselves with some fun options. So the way that I'm going to be doing that is in this clip launcher view. We could of course be using this view here, but I'm not going to be doing this in the arranger for now. For now I'm going to do it here in this clip launcher. So I'm going to make a clip here, and we know that this chord is a D minor 9 because I've said so. If we go in here, you can see that we've got a D, F, A, C, and E, which is a D minor 9 chord. Now I want to use all of the notes in this chord in my bass line. So the first thing I'm going to do is just go in here and I'm going to add a D. And I'm going to make this, say, a quarter note long. So let's take a quick listen what it would sound like with just a quarter note D in the bass. But before I start to add any fancy notes in here, I'm actually just going to make this a quarter note D. That's it. So if we were to just keep playing, it's just this rolling D. Nice. And for the sake of just making sure that we know what is what, I'm going to call that D. Now I'm going to duplicate this and I'm going to add the next note in here. So we know it's a D, F, A, C, and an E. So in this next one, I'm going to go up here and I'm going to move this to an F. Let's call this F. Then I'm going to go in here and I'm going to make the third one, which will be an A, call that A, so forth. Let's just do a C and an E. There we go. So I could now play this, I could do an F, and an A, and a C, and an E. I'm actually going to get rid of the E. I think for now I just want to do the D, F, the A, and the C. But what I want to do now is highlight all of these notes, and we're going to utilize the next action. So I'm going to turn this on, making sure to highlight all of these notes, and I'm going to change it from stop to play other. Now you can see down here, this is how we choose how long a clip should play before we get a next action. And if you have it set to with this little loop mode off, you pick in time. If you have it on, you get to pick basically how many times through the clip it plays before it changes. So if I were to just press play now, what we're going to get is just a random pattern of it bouncing back and forth between these four possible notes. So let's take a quick listen so far. kind of fun, but at the end of the day, it doesn't sound super interesting because it's all the same length notes. And also one of the key things that gives a bass line groove, which really gives anything groove, but particularly with a bass, is we need to have some amount of silence. So I'm also just going to duplicate this C down here, and I'm actually just going to call this space. I'm going to get rid of the note. So now I have the option for a D, an F, an A, and a C, or no note. And all of these notes, including the no note, will be a quarter note long. So let's take another quick listen, now introducing a little bit of space into it. Already a lot cooler, I think you'll agree. But what I want to do now is highlight all of these notes, duplicate them down. I'm going to change the color just so that we know that this is a different part of the system we're setting up. And I'm just going to highlight all of these, and I have set to the left square bracket shorten. What do they even call that, just in case? Because I honestly don't know how you would do it without that. Scale 50% less. So in this case, I suppose you could highlight it and then it would be content scaling, scale 50%. So what that means is that this clip, whereas this D is a quarter note long, length 1, this is now half of that. So if I were to press play, because I've copied and crossed the same follow action, now we're going to have the option for a random D, F, A, and a C and an empty note, and then also exactly the same thing, but a eighth note rather than a quarter note. So let's take a quick listen now. Super cool. I could listen to this for ages, and I think that's one of the things that I miss most about my modular workflow. I sold all my Euro rack at the beginning of this year to move to here, to Costa Rica, to the jungle. I didn't think the humidity would do too well with the fragile electronics. But anyways, I absolutely love making music where it's less about the pattern that I've written and more about creating a space, creating the framework or the system for the music to sort of write itself. One of the other things I'd like to do is to include the ability for 16th notes. So once again, I'm going to duplicate this down. I'm going to change the color. Let's make this yellow. And just to make it easy for you guys, I'm going to go here, content scaling, scale 50%. So if we press play again now, we're going to have quarter notes, eighth notes, and 16th notes with a silent note in each of those note divisions as well. So let's take another listen. Super cool already, and I do just want to point out that we can, if we want to, record out the MIDI of this. If I would go to bass on a new channel and record, you can see that this is actually recording that pattern for us. Nice. Now I'm going to go back to that. One thing that you can do with this as well is it's like, okay, well, let's say that we want more Ds and more As than we do Fs and Cs. I'm kind of wondering if I can just, maybe I'll just bring this down here. I'm going to drag all of these down a little bit, and I'm going to duplicate that D. So now we have double the chance of a D. Same thing, I'm going to go down here, and I'm going to duplicate the A. So now we have 2 Ds, 1 F, 2 As, and 2 Cs. And of course, you can do this with all of the different subdivisions. So in this case, let's do 2 Ds. In this case, let's do 2 A's, and then we'll do the same thing here, just making sure to duplicate the notes that we want more of rather than the others. So let's take a listen again. Now we're obviously going to be centering more on D's and A's across all of the subdivisions. Now what might also be quite nice is these 16th notes that we've got here. I'm going to duplicate this down again, change the color one more time, and in this case I'm only going to have one of each note. There's really obviously no massive system to this, it's just based off of what you want in any given moment. But I'm going to take these notes, and I'm actually going to say that, well, these ones, it would be quite nice if they were up an octave. So if you can't edit multiple at once, you've got to go down here, click this little layered editing mode. Now I can highlight all of these and just put them up an octave. So now we've got some quarter notes, eighth notes, 16th notes, and then also 16th notes an octave up. So let's take a listen to that. We could also include a bit more silence. So let's say maybe we want to increase the chance that we get a 16th note pause. Let's duplicate the 16th note down. Maybe I'll even add another one. Let's have the possibility for 3 16th note nothingnesses. And then let's also do one with an eighth note. I'm kind of all right with there not being so many quarter note pauses, but you can see that we're writing a melody by creating the possibilities for it landing on these different positions. So, and you can see what I mean by the fact that having more silence, having more gaps, in many ways creates a bit more groove. I'm pretty happy with that. So what I want to now do is just duplicate this, and I'm going to call this pluck. And let's just make this blue. And I'm going to, I suppose, go in here. Let's just give this a color so that it's actually the color. Let's go up here and make this blue. And on this, I'm going to just change this up a little bit. I want to make this into a sine wave. Maybe I'll get rid of the portamento here. I'm also going to go up a couple of octaves. So let's go up here. Let's take a quick listen to what this sounds like, because now we have exactly the same parameters, but obviously it's going to be random, and also it's going to be up 2 octaves, and it's going to be like a nice little sine wavy pluck. I also might want to send this to a reverb. So let's take a quick listen. I might just delete that for now. Let's take a quick listen with this pluck then. Super nice. Now I do just want to add a little bit of random here, maybe with the skew. Maybe we'll go up another octave or 2. Super nice. Now I do actually have an itchy ear. I do actually have 2 chords here. I've got a D minor 9 and an A minor 9. Obviously the difference between the D minor 9 and the A minor 9 is a few of the notes, not all of them. D, F, A, C, and E, and the A minor 9 is A, C, E, G, B. A, C, E, G, B. I've actually got another G in there. Let's take a quick listen with both chords. Kind of nice, but we now have a few notes in this bass and this pluck pattern that don't necessarily. Let's go to this view. This might be a little bit easier to visualize it. I'm just going to make all of these a little smaller. I've actually also got here the A minor 9. I'm just going to add that there. Nice. Okay, so let's just bring this back here just so that we make it real nice and easy to visualize. How does that? Starts at 2, ends at 2/4. Yeah, is that right? Okay, yeah, cool. So what I wanted to show you as well is if we get rid of these for now, I'm going to move these all the way to the end just to remember them, is that these are randomly jumping around within this block, we call it. And you can see here that under the next actions, there is things that refer to blocks. So first in block, last in block. A block is basically a connected set of clips. If I were to have a gap here, this would be one block and this would be another block. So what's quite nice is if I go here, I'm going to duplicate that. I'm going to highlight all of these notes and copy and paste them across, making sure to leave. Maybe we need to move these even a little bit further out of the way. But yeah, I'm going to copy and paste all of these random little notes in here and just make sure that they are moved with a gap in between them. And I just need to now change the notes in here to fit with the A minor 9 chord. So I'm going to go in here. I'm just going to shift everything up so that we get, or maybe we'll go down. So now we have an A, C, E, and a G, which is fine. I know there's technically a B in it with the A minor 9, but basically all I've done is I've shifted it down so that in this, kind of annoying, I'm just going to remove the text of that so we don't get confused. We now have all of the notes that make up an A minor 7, and we have all of the notes that make up a D minor 7. We've got the ninths on those 2 chords just for good measure. But instead of now having it be set to play other, I'm going to say play other in block. And you're going to see what's kind of cool about this, particularly if we just make all of this a little easier to look at, is that we can now jump around within these blocks, basically playing the correct notes for the chord that we want. So we can have randomness, but that randomness can be contained into something that is a bit more of what we want anticipatedly. So other in block. I'm now going to be able to, if we put this perhaps in a little group, just so that I can make it a little bit easier to actually trigger it. I'm going to trigger this guy, and then I'm going to trigger this guy. And you'll see that when I trigger this, now we are well and truly playing notes in the D minor. And when I trigger this clip now, the chord, the A minor 9, is then going to have the appropriate notes below it for A minor 9. So here we go. Go back to D minor. And of course you can do this with as many chords as you want. I could in fact now duplicate this out. So now we've got another little gap. Oh, I'm going to add a space so that this is a block. Let's pick another chord. So maybe it might be quite nice. We've got the D minor, we've got an A minor. Let's do an F major 7. So for that I'm going to go F, A, C, E and a G. So to make that work, I just need to probably also call this F major, well, I suppose it's an F major 9, is it? F, A, C, E, G, yep. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to adjust the notes that we have here. So bring this up. I just now need to say, okay, well, the lowest note should be an F. So now we just need to move these G sharps to an A, F, A, C, and an E. And then this needs to be a G. This needs to be an E. It doesn't really matter if you don't understand the music theory behind this, but it just works with whatever the chords are. If you make a chord, just pick the right notes. So let's take a listen again what this would now sound like, being able to jump back and forth between these 3 chords. It's a bit annoying that we have to scroll sideways, but here we go with the D minor 9. Go to F major. Very nice. Let's bring the drums in. Very nice. Now I might actually even just map the play of these chords to something that means that I don't have to scroll sideways. I'm going to map this first chord to 1. I'll map this block to 2, and then this block to 3. This is just on my keyboard, so when I press 3, when I press 1, it means that I can just jump back and forth. So why don't we also, just for good measure, create a MIDI clip down here. And I'm actually going to drag the instrument that we have on this bass down to here, and we will call this bass, and we will call this bass MIDI. And I'm going to change the input for this bass channel to bass MIDI MIDI. And then let's also do the same thing here. We'll move this down and we'll call this pluck. And we can call this pluck MIDI. Now this just gives us the added benefit of being able to actually adjust notes after the fact if we don't like them. One of the things that I truly believe is that if you're going to be doing random stuff, at least give yourself the option to be able to capture that random, because sometimes it may do something where you're like, damn, that was just so wonderful, and it's gone. That's it. You've lost it now. So in this case, what might be a good idea is to record both of these clips. I've also got a little pad instrument that I've created here, and I'm just going to delete these for now. And I'm going to drag this in. I'm going to duplicate this. So I've got another MIDI clip, and we'll call this pad MIDI. And the only difference here is instead of jumping around, what I'm going to do is take the chord, put the chord here as well, and then put the chord here as well. So we have those chords. But in these, I'm going to open up, let's just take a quick listen what I'm even talking about. Obviously, we need to enable this. Are we right? Pad MIDI. Okay, there we go. So from pad MIDI. So if we take a quick listen to this chord. Very nice. I've literally just put a few diva patches with the instrument selector on. But what I want to do is in these clips, I'm going to go in and I'm going to say, okay, well, here are all of the notes that I'd like to play in this pad. Let's copy this up an octave as well. So now we have 2 octaves of the same chord, but I'm going to highlight all of these notes and say, maybe there's only like a 44% chance that any one of them plays. So if we were to press play now, we're going to be having every time a different selection of these notes playing, which is really quite wonderful. Let's do it with this guy as well. So take all of the notes, I'm just going to shift it up an octave, and let's make it 44%. I just like the number 44, and we'll do the same thing here as well. So F, A, C, E, G, let's add the F here, make them all 44%. So now we effectively have, although it's 2 octaves, we may not even have like the full chord because it may not play the root every time. But what I want to do now is record enable the bass, the pluck, and the pad. And by pressing 1, 2, and 3 on my keyboard, I'm effectively able to, this is a key thing, I'm glad that I've just realized this now, is I need to actually move these instruments out of this clip, because I want to be using this 1, 2, and 3 key to change the MIDI, but not for it to start recording another clip. So that's just fine. All we need to do now is just record enable these 3. So because these are out of the clip, they're not going to be affected by me changing the scene of this group. So if we were to now first just press play here, I'm going to just record enable these 3 and just go wild. So let's take a quick listen. I'm going to press my 1 key, my 2 key, and my 3 keys to be able to record this out. And let's just take a quick listen to what we get. Make sure to put these effects on it. Very nice. I've actually just should have done that before. Let's record these 3 and then let's do a little bit of jumping around. So here we go. Oh, record. Okay, here we go. So maybe stay on this for a little while. Now we should go to the second chord. Back to the first chord. So I'm going to press 1. And this time I'm going to go to the third chord. One of the most important things about this technique is that when you're creating generative music, you're creating random music, or should we say using the power of randomness to create music, because a lot of the time you don't really have that much control over how much each thing happens. Sure, you could say, well, there's a 50% chance a note will play, and sure, you could perhaps in the grid stack up more and more of the one voice that you want. But I think the ability in this case to still direct the music, to still say like, okay, well, go to the third chord, go to the second chord, and to be able to do that in a way that really does feel very human, like you are performing it. But at the same time, be able to benefit from the huge amount of power that comes from generative music in this case. Just out of interest, what would happen if we were to go in here? And I think probably what would be a good idea is to separate the keys in the same way as we did. So I'm just going to create another MIDI channel here and call this keys, and I'm just going to take the instruments that we had on the keys here and put them there, and we shall call this keys MIDI. We might as well even just call this group generators, because this is where we're generating the notes. Let's make this blue. Bass can go there, pluck, pad, nice. Now, one of the other things that I think would be kind of cool is to be able to have a little bit of tactile control. So I've got here my PC12. I'm going to use that to control some of the parameters on these instruments as it's playing. So before we do any of the next step, I probably just need to go in here, keys, choose the MIDI to be generators, keys, MIDI, very nice. But what I want to do is listen to these sounds and see if there's anything that I can do to change the shape in real time. So I'm going to add a project-wide macro here, and we'll call this bigger. And we'll use this bigger knob. I'm going to map it all the way to the top. You've seen me do this before in my automation tricks. I'm going to map this to the bass, and let's just see if we can in real time create a slightly more bigger. Kind of cool. Might be a good idea also to put some sort of, say, delay on here. Kooky idea. I might just roll off a little bit at the low end there on this delay. But so we're going to use this bigger knob to increase the dry wet. So now we can bring this down. Cool. I'm going to straight away just map that to one of these knobs on my controller. I'm going to map it to this one. So now in real time, I can just play with that. Now let's do this to some of the other sounds. I've also got this pluck thing here. I feel like the pluck should probably be smaller in reality. So let's make this thing smaller. So by default, it is a smaller sound. And then when this bigger knob is up, we can make this a bit crazier. This is a polyphonic sound, so in theory, we should be able to now have a bit of delicious tail coming across. I'm just going to make this, as the name says, bigger. Maybe also this sound should have less of this reverb at a lower value, and we'll use this knob to just increase this to its max. What else can we do? Maybe a bit of fold, bit of noise, bit more filter opening, maybe even a little bit of glide. So if we were to listen to that with the bass together. Very nice. Probably want to bring the volume of this up just a hair. Now let's go to the pad sound as well. I'm going to open this up. What does this pad even sound like? Well, I want to click this cut off. So let's do the same thing. Let's just make this pad bigger. We'll do it on every one of these patches. I'm going to do it with cut off just because it's probably the easiest. And we've got this guy as well. Cut off. There we go. Maybe this pad should have a little less reverb by default. And again, we'll use this to go all the way to the top. Maybe we'll also increase the feedback a bit. Almost past the point of no return. Bit of softness here. Maybe we can even increase this EQ a little bit. Get a bit more top end, a little bit more upper mids. Fair enough. Maybe we can even turn the volume up just a hair. Okay, so now if we were to listen to all three of these, I don't think we've done anything to the keys. I'm not sure what we can do. Let's have a look to see if Keyscapes actually has anything worth changing. Let's take a quick listen to this. Maybe lo-fi, can we flutter it more? Maybe, yeah, that's a nice idea. This one we have to do enable host automation. So let's use bigger. Let's make this lower by default, actually. And then we'll make bigger, speed it up. Cool, we've also got this other keyscape in here. I don't know what's going on in this, but maybe some effects. What could we do? This amount. Okay, it's a small thing, but we'll just do enable host automation, blah, 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 blah. The goal is just to create a little bit more movement here. Maybe this sound could do with a little bit of reverb. So same thing. Now I've got the ability with this one knob on my MIDI controller here to make everything bigger and smaller. So let's just take a quick play, what it sounds like, and I'm just going to play with that knob and in real time create a bit of motion. For some reason we're not hearing anything here. Because these aren't enabled. So let's just record enable all of the instruments, take a quick listen. Now, of course, we're just playing one chord, so as I've talked about before in this channel about how I like to print audio, we could of course print the MIDI here. And in fact, why don't we just put this in a group and we'll call this instruments. This isn't probably how I would go about organizing it, but for the sake of this video, let's also now add an audio channel, and we're going to call this bass audio, and we'll call this keys audio and pluck audio and pad audio. And we'll just take the audio outputs of these instruments. So bass, post, keys, post, pluck, post, finally pad post. And these guys can actually be muted because we don't necessarily really want to hear these. They're going to double up. But let's just record enable all of these guys. And bearing in mind, if I press the 1 key on my keyboard, it's going to play the first chord. If I play the 2 key, it's going to play the second chord, and third chord will be the 3 key. We can look at it in whatever view we want. It doesn't really matter to me to be able to see it because I know I've set up the automation, so to speak. But let's just take a little listen now and see what level of humanization we can get through having a knob. Bearing in mind I've only got one, but if we were to have a few of these, I've actually got 72 knobs on this controller. We could get some really rather wild results. So let's just play through and we shall wrap this video up here. So here we go. Second chord. Back to the first. Let's go to the third chord. Second. Back to the third. Let's go back to the first. Anyways, I think that's probably a good place to leave it. The wonderful thing, of course, is that we've just got these really, really expressive bits of audio to play with. You could go ahead and now just hide all of these and keep them for if you need them for a later date, but you've got a really, really human, expressive sound here that you played. You got it to feel like this. You were the director. You were like, yo, give me the A minor chord now. You've got your hand on the knob. But at the same time, you're letting the computer do what it does best, which is just make decisions, like random decisions here. So, super vibey. Super nice. Well folks, that's sadly all we have time for today, but I do hope that this video has been useful. If you enjoyed it, then please remember to like, comment and subscribe and smash that notifications button to keep up to date with all of my future videos. But in the meantime, happy Thursday and happy creating.